Hey, Jason, I got a question for you.
Yo, I got you. What you
I
got?
just got a new AR-15, and I was thinking,
Okay.
what, if anything, is going to break first? So, like, what do I need to, like, kind of look for and keep an eye out for?
Well, obviously, routine maintenance is great, but let's really get in depth of what could potentially fail, what could go wrong, and how you can maintain your AR-15.
Welcome back to Class Firearms, guys. Kaya here with Jason.
What's going on, folks?
And we've got Matt.
What's up, everybody?
He's back. People have been asking about you.
I know, people can't get enough Matt. It's great.
I can't either, so welcome back, dude.
Thanks, man.
And today we're going to talk about 5 most common things that go out on a traditional DI AR-15.
There's a lot of things.
Exactly. Matt, you've built a lot of ARs, right?
I have a lot of experience building ARs, but I definitely think that I lack the experience that you guys have when it comes to the range time and trigger time, right? I don't think I've ever shot any one of the rifles I've had through to like a failure point. So I'm really interested in hearing more information from you guys. I'm actually kind of coming from a position of ignorance.
That's fair. Jason, you've been shooting ARs for many years.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of experience, seen a lot of things go down, especially in classes. A lot of random things that people don't even really think about. So, yeah, I'm ready to dive into it, man.
Yeah, same here. I've been shooting ARs in the last 13 years, and I've had my fair share malfunctions or failures, let's just say. Not malfunctions, failures. And today we're going to talk about that. This is not something that we've read on the internet. This is our personal experience shooting AR-15s, building AR-15s. Traditional ones. What are the 5 most common things that go out? With that being said, number 1?
Extractor and Extractor Springs.
All right, tell us about it, man.
Common thing, man. It's where your bolt actually eats, right? So bolt face is coming in there, driving a new round from the magazine in there. There you go.
There you go.
Just this little nice extractor right here. It does a lot of work. It locks, unlocks, strips that round, that spent casing, and spins it out. You're good to go. But if you use a lot of steel case, you can see sometimes that it can either cause the extractor to, i.e., shear completely, because different metals and metallurgy stuff like that, or the spring in here just cease to exist. So
yeah, steel is a harder metal than brass. So folks, some people ask like, why? What's the difference? Right? It's just the metallurgy, like you said. And this thing, guys, as Jason talked about, this thing. Locks, unlocks, keeps ejecting that spent casing, and you shoot thousands of rounds, and next thing you know, especially if you're shooting steel, this baby, goodbye. You gotta change the pin, the extractor, obviously, the spring. It's one of those items that you wanna keep an eye on.
Right.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, so kind of like just to figure off what you said, so this is basically like, imagine it's a claw, and it has to the round comes into the front, and it's gonna kind of press it out and snap into that little extractor ring on the rear of your case. And so it's dragging along that metal, and so if it's a softer metal like a brass casing, then it's going to have less wear. If it's a harder metal like steel, it's going to have more wear. But importantly, it's always going to wear.
Yes.
So this is something where you can expect that if you shoot mostly brass, you're probably looking at, I don't know, between say 5,000 to 8,000 rounds maybe. And if you're shooting something like steel, it's going to be dramatically less.
Correct. Dramatically less, exactly. And depends on the bolt carrier group too, but that's absolutely perfect. So with that being said, let's move on to number 2, and that's going to be gas rings.
Gas rings, for sure.
Guys, gas rings, and I could just go ahead and get the little piece out of here, remove this thing, get the firing pin, take this off, the firing pin out, get this guy out, and there it is.
There you go.
That's the gas rings right here, a couple of them. So these things,
they wear out, especially as you can see right here around this like funnel shape that you can see how much carbon gets deposited on there. So imagine if, gas is pushing, all hot gas are going back, if carbon's being deposited here, obviously with the gas rings, you can see that they can potentially be fried, especially if you 100% suppress your rifle.
Yeah, so how do people know if the gas rings are bad?
So basically, there's a test, right? Like you can take a working bolt carrier group right here, you can see it's locked, unlocked, and all you have to do is push it back, do it like this, just whip it. Goes in to make sure that there's no resistance. And also, if you put it right down on top of itself, and provided that it doesn't close on itself completely under its own force, you're good to go.
Good to go. Yep. Precisely. So definitely check that out. What do you think, Matt?
I think that's really interesting. So yeah, it kind of reminds me of the fact that in ARs there's kind of a argument to be made that it is a gas piston system where the piston is the bolt carrier in
Correct.
itself, and so that gas piston, the gas rings are really important in providing, the gas sealing inside of the bolt carrier.
Right.
So definitely need to make sure those work.
That's extremely important for the proper cycling of the gun. That's pretty much it. And with that being said, moving on to number 3.
Number 3. There we go. Firing pin.
There you go.
So a lot of people don't have a lot of, well, it depends. I've seen a bunch of firing pin shear, and when we're talking about shear, we're not talking about the entire firing pin just breaking off. We're actually talking about this little bitty itty nub right there, which actually ignites the primer. So depending on what type of ammo you're using, how much use you actually have on a firing pin, I've seen the shear completely off, and then if it doesn't have anything to strike, how are you getting a primer strike?
Dude, I personally have never had, and I'm not saying it doesn't, I'm not saying this is wrong, obviously, it happens, but I've never had a firing pin break on me. In the last 12 years that I've been firing, and granted, I'm not out there just firing thousands of rounds, but I've never had one fire.
So
fail.
I will say this: I have not seen an AR-15 firing pin break in my experience.
That's what I'm saying. AR-15.
But coming from my world of surplus firearms, firing pins break all the time. And there's no reason for the AR-15 to be different. Like when we talk about these things being wear articles, right? They are things that through their just normal use, they get rubbed up against, impacted on, and over time these things are going to wear down and break. And think about it, you have the full force of the hammer driving that into the rear of a cartridge, and it's made of metal. So it's going to wear over time because it's just impact on impact on impact.
Yeah. I'm just saying, let us know in the comment section, what's your experience when it comes to an AR-15 firing pin? Again, you've seen it happen, you've seen it break, right?
Yep.
I've never seen one. That obviously doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It makes perfect sense. This is a moving part, it's making contact constantly,
Malleable.
so it's bound to fail. I just have never had one fail on me. And I've fired, just forget the 12, 13 years that I've been using AR-15s actively, just at classic firearms alone. I know I've been using my ADM build back there. Oh no, it's right there. Yeah, it was over there.
But you know what that means?
Yeah.
It means we probably need to do a video that we do an endurance test on one gun.
Like, how many rounds are you thinking?
How many rounds will it
If
take?
you want my ADM, you better bring 10,000 minimum.
Comment section, let us know. Wouldn't that be cool? An
what I'm
endurance
saying.
test run, and we'll tack on and tally up how many rounds we actually eat through it.
I would love that, but firing pin is something that I haven't experienced, but it does happen, so definitely check your gun, make sure this is good to go. Moving on to number 4.
And then number 4, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a combo. We're going to talk about the rear of the firearm right here, which is the buffer spring, and as well as kind of the castle nut area. So the buffer spring is something that just gets compacted and compressed over and over again during the normal cycling of your rifle. And the biggest thing that wears on springs is repeatedly, like collapsing.
Yeah, it's
and
that
extending.
metal constantly just being pressed and compressed.
Compression.
Compression. Yep. And so over time, that can actually leave your buffer spring shorter than it should be. It takes a permanent set as it compacts and doesn't extend as much. So that can also end up causing inconsistent cycling because it's not keeping the buffer weight as far forward as it should be. The buffer weight maybe has some free movement.
All right, we had a little cut because of YouTube guidelines. We cannot really disassemble a gun in front of you guys. So we did that. Now that we're talking about buffer systems here, this is the Geisley Super 42. See that it's like braided, like multiple, what is it, 2?
3.
Multiple
Three of them?
strands.
Yeah, and then what about you?
And this is a standard. Now, these two are also different lengths. So this is like a carbine length buffer
rifle
spring.
length.
This is a rifle length. But you can see this is one spring. It's just one filament of wire that goes all the way up versus this being a braided multiple filament kind of spring. And so again, this is being compressed over and over again as the bolt carrier drives this buffer weight home. And then it comes back forward to reset the action. And over time, this can take a set. It can get overly compressed. This can break. And this is going to affect the service of your rifle. And again, it's just a normal part of its use.
Exactly. Certainly that happens, and there are some mitigations to like guys do over here, but you can simply swap out. They're relatively inexpensive. You just swap out for a new one and you're good to go. It's good to it's one of those like maintenance items that you can just get out there. But if you don't, then you'll have some inconsistencies for sure over time, depending on the buffer spring that you're using, obviously.
Now, we also wanted to mention the hassle nut because that can get loose, which can cause the entire rear assembly to become loose. And, that obviously, if this starts being able to go at an angle or something, that's going to be bad for the the operation of your rifle.
Yeah.
One of the big things is just making sure that this is properly staked if it's a castle nut that can be staked.
And can you explain staking
Yeah,
for
what is
folks
that?
who don't know?
Sure. So the end plate here is a little plate of metal between the rear of the lower receiver and the castle nut, and so you are going to press metal using a punch into one of the kind of detent divots that are in the front side of the castle nut, so that it can't turn.
So you're essentially creating a little cog system almost, right?
So
Almost.
exactly. So imagine like if you had a gear and then you were deforming metal into one of those gaps
Yeah.
in the teeth so that it can't turn.
There's a physical blockade. So basically that's a permanent thing. Would you say it's pretty much
Semi-permanent, yeah, semi-permanent, because you can overcome that if you needed to take it off. But again, one of the things is that if you check your rifle and it's not got staking, then that can certainly come loose. And
It's happened to me numerous times.
you have vibration and movement going on inside the rifle, and that can definitely cause that to
Kind of walk
loosen
back
itself,
a little bit, your stock is getting loose. Yeah, it
This
certainly happens.
is why we love witness marks.
That's right. And which, speaking of witness marks, and why don't you just talk about that real quick, even other parts of the gun,
Yeah, so-
before we move on to number.
Yeah, so witness mark, basically anything that can possibly screw in and or move, right? First couple of things I always do, witness mark is my handguard bolts. Any way that it bolts up, I always witness mark any bit of my optics to see if they've worn or moved, any bit of my mounts, even my front sight post and rear sight post. The screws that actually attach into them, I witness mark everything just to make sure that it didn't
But
fall.
just to take a step back, when we say witness mark, what we mean are two marks.
Yep.
2 marks.
So one is going to be on the thing that can move, and the other one is going to be on the thing that doesn't move.
There you go.
And so what we do is we make one line across the gap between those things. And so we know if that line is lined up, it has not moved. And if we see that they separate, that they're no longer directly lined up, that it has moved.
Correct.
It's definitely a very good way to kind of keep things visually. When you look at it, like just this screw right here alone, I tighten this up completely. This is good to go. Later on, a week later, if I look at it, to me it may look still okay. What if it's just slowly walking out? But if I had a little Sharpie or something, just mark it like that, I just know this is still the same and it's still tight and good to go. So that's pretty good. Good point, Jason. So let's move on to number 5.
Number 5.
And what's that?
That's going to be the handguard.
That's right.
The handguard retaining screws. So you can see here that many handguards, especially free-floating handguards, they use a variety of screws to clamp onto the barrel nut. Right. And one of the things is that when you are normally operating the firearm, there's generally going to be some kind of torsion of your body where you're really bearing down. So this arm's turning this way. You're kind of keeping it tucked in tight, turning this way with the other hand, or for most of you, the opposite side because you're on the other shoulder. But so you're providing kind of rotational stress against this, which is trying to keep everything straight and lined up. And this really does end up causing, along with again just the vibration of the operation, some of the times these screws to loosen up, in which case you can end up with a loose handguard, and that's going to cause problems where your optics aren't aligned anymore. You can actually have this thing possibly even loose enough to come
walk off.
Even when you're shooting it, while you're shooting, you can just flex and it'll affect your point of impact, point of aim. So not all handguards are created equally.
No.
Okay, like that ADM right there is completely different than some other handguards. Handguards that I have on my other ARs.
Yep.
They are, depending on the metallurgy, obviously, the length, the brand, how thin they are, how thick they are, quad rail,
bolt
M-lock.
pattern.
Exactly. And design of it, too, Some of them are they're just not married to the upper, right? They're just kind of sitting like that, then they can just freely float. If the screws get loose, it happens. It's literally happening to one of my ARs right now, okay? And some companies, like we have the Radical RF, obviously 15 here. I removed the bolt carrier on this one to show you guys. If you look at it, they solved it. And literally on a budget AR, they've got this. I'm utterly impressed. This is what we're talking about. This is the handguard, this is the upper receiver, and this is the lower receiver. Up here, you got this little notch that's sticking out.
It's got wings.
Yeah, so if you cannot physically turn this, there's a very little play. Actually, this is a great example to show this play. Like you see these nuts right here, there's that little play. Just gotta tighten that up. But even though these are loose a little bit, this can't move because of these wings.
And that's such a marginal thing for point of aim, point of impact shift, so you're not gonna have it.
If these wings weren't there, I could just be twisting this thing.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
And don't think that it's limited to just free float handguards. This also can happen with a delta ring assembly if you have more of like an A2 style, round plastic handguard or something. But yeah, certainly anything that's a screw-in fastener type device, whether that be here or like I can see, for the bolt cap, the ambi bolt release here, you can see there's a little screw. Like, it's a good idea to check all of your screws, because all of them, whenever there's metal on metal contact, if you don't have, or even if you do have some kind of locking agent in there, there's always the possibility that's going to loosen up.
It gets hot.
It gets hot.
Yeah,
It gets
vibration.
cold. It vibrates.
Yeah.
So that would, I mean, maybe less a wear item, more a maintenance item.
100%.
You really need to make sure to check these screwing connections, threaded connections.
Yeah, basically these 5 are in our experience, and we discussed this before we obviously start filming, and we all agreed on them, right? 5 most common things to go out on an AR-15, DI AR-15. That doesn't mean other things don't go out. Actually, let us know in the comment section what are your thoughts on the top 5 or 5 most common ones. But one thing that doesn't change, there's a lot of screws, a lot of things are put together. Like on average, a given AR is like 100 parts, right? 100 plus parts or somewhere around there, right? There's a lot of things just screwed in. You guys want to make sure that you do the proper maintenance for your AR-15, because things do walk out.
So I actually have one I would like to throw in as an honorable mention. Maybe. When you talk about doing proper maintenance on your AR, so when you are disassembling your bolt carrier, there is a cotter pin, and that cotter pin has to bend in order to work.
Correct.
And anytime you have metal that's bending and then straightening
That's
out,
right,
and
yeah.
bending and straightening out,
It wears.
you're going to wear it. It's going to over harden it until it breaks.
Correct.
And so my honorable mention is the cotter pin that holds your firing pin into your bolt carrier.
That's a good one.
So it's,
Yep. That little
That,
is.
that,
I
that
just
little
want,
sucker.
you want to show it to people? There it is.
That little cotter pin right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my honorable mention.
That is, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, it's a little guy, but it does a lot of,
If
it's
that
got a big
fails,
job.
it's going to have a big job.
Correct.
It literally retains this firing pin, obviously. So there's that, guys. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you guys agree with our list? If not, let us know why, and I would like to know your list. But these are the 5 most common ones, and there's other stuff. And if you guys want part 2, we can maybe come up with part 2. Let us know. But that's it. Properly maintain your AR-15 or any guns you have. Get it cleaned up, lubed up, so that way it can protect you, because you got to protect it for it to protect you.
And I will say this, I am definitely a proponent of maintaining your rifle as proper.
Yeah.
That means properly lube it after every range session. Don't be that guy. Oh, I just want to see how much it can take. I hear you. And then it wets the bed. So just
I agree.
FYI.
I agree, guys. So that's it. Well, check out cfcontest.com too. At the same time, check out Rumble. Rumble Classic Firearms. Go to Rumble, go to description section. You will see some of these things in the description, and you'll have some links, and we're good to go. Check them out, and check out cfcontest.com, because Matt loves that place.
I
love
do.
it too.
It's
You do
awesome.
too? Oh.
It's the cool place where cool people go.
Oh, is that how?
That's
okay,
right.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that one. It is a cool place where cool people go. Yes. So with that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. We appreciate your business.
God bless.
And we'll see you on the... Damn it.
Yes! Yes!
Damn it.
Yes!
Oh, man.
You know what I was going to say? I was saying we'll catch you on the next one. That's what it was. We'll see you and we'll catch you on the next one. Okay.
That's fine.